Paris, 1793. The streets do not smell of bread, but of blood. One man stands at the center of this chaos, Maximilien Robespierre. He was a lawyer who hated the death penalty. Yet, under his rule, the guillotine became the national razor. In just 1 year, over 16,000 people were officially sentenced to death. Thousands more died in prison without a trial. He promised a republic of virtue, but he delivered a reign of terror. He was called the Incorruptible, a man who could not be bought. He claimed he had his own reason. Today, we look at the cold, hard facts.
Maximilien, you were a man of the law. You once argued that the death penalty was a crime. How does a man like that end up cutting off thousands of heads?
You do not understand the weight of a revolution. To protect the tree of liberty, we had to cut away the rotten branches. I did not kill for pleasure. I killed to save the republic.
You say rotten branches, but history says innocent people. Most of those you executed were not kings or queens. They were ordinary workers and farmers. Is that your virtue?
In a revolution, there is no middle ground. You are either for the people or against them. If the law is too slow, the revolution dies. I simply chose to make the law faster.
In 1789, France was starving. The gap between the rich nobles and the poor was huge. When the revolution began, the people wanted bread and rights. Robespierre rose to power by promising to be the voice of the poor. But the hunger did not stop.
You didn't just make the law faster. You took away the right to a defense. No lawyers, no witnesses, just an accusation and a blade. That isn't justice. It's a massacre.
Justice is not a luxury for traitors. My goal was a world where everyone is equal. To reach that world, we had to go through the fire. Terror is nothing more than justice that is swift and firm.
Terror is justice? That is the logic of a tyrant. You became the very thing you fought against. You replaced a king with a guillotine.
A king kills for himself. I killed for the general will of the people. I stayed in a small, simple room. I took no bribes. Can a tyrann be so selfless?
The Committee of Public Safety was created to protect France from foreign enemies. However, it soon turned its eyes inward. Robespierre and his allies gained absolute power, effectively becoming a 12-man dictatorship.
You say you were selfless, but you love the power of being the judge. You watched as your friends were dragged to the platform. Tell me about Georges Danton. He was your brother in the revolution. Why did he have to die?
Danton became soft. He wanted to stop the terror too early. If we stop before the work is done, the enemies of liberty will return and kill us all. I had to choose, my friend or my country. I chose my country.
You chose your ego. You were afraid Danton was more popular than you. You didn't kill him for the country. You killed him because he dared to say, enough.
The law of suspects allowed the government to arrest anyone who, by their conduct, relations, or language, showed themselves to be enemies of liberty. This meant a simple rumor could lead to a death sentence.
Let's talk about that virtue. You created a new religion, the cult of the Supreme Being. You even had a festival where you walked out as the high priest. Was the Republic not enough? Did you need to be a god too?
The people need something to believe in. Reason alone is cold. I wanted to give them a moral compass. I wanted to lead them to a higher state of being.
You looked like a madman. Even your own supporters were laughing behind your back. They saw a man who had lost touch with reality, standing on top of a fake mountain in a blue coat.
By 1794, the terror reached its peak. This was known as the Great Terror. In Paris, the sound of the guillotine was constant. People lived in total silence, afraid that a single wrong word would be their last.
You spoke of the people constantly, but the people were terrified of you. You turned neighbors into spies. Is that the world you wanted?
Safety requires sacrifice. If the innocent were afraid, it was a small price to pay to ensure the guilty were punished. The revolution is a war, and in war, there are always accidents.
Accidents? A 17-year-old girl executed for a book? A group of nuns executed for singing hymns? That is not a war, Maximilien. That is paranoia.
The Law of 22. Prairial was the most extreme. It removed the need for evidence. The jury only needed moral proof. Basically, if the judge felt you were guilty, you were dead.
You eventually went too far. You walked into the convention with a list of traitors, but you wouldn't say the names. You wanted everyone to tremble. You wanted them to wonder, am I next?
I wanted them to be honest. If they were afraid, it was because they had guilty consciences.
That was your biggest mistake. When you threaten everyone, you have no friends left. You weren't a leader anymore. You were a cornered animal.
On July 27, 1794, the month of Thermidor, the convention finally turned against Robespierre. They shouted him down, refusing to let him speak. He was arrested that night.
When they came for you, you tried to take the easy way out, didn't you? You tried to shoot yourself, but you missed. You only shattered your own jaw.
It was an accident. It does not matter.
Here is the killer question, Maximilien. You claimed to be the incorruptible, but in your final days, you were drafting a law to make yourself a legal dictator. If you truly loved the Republic, why were you the only one allowed to define it?
Because only I had the courage to be hated for it.
No, you were just a man who loved his own ideas more than human lives. You were a coward who used a guillotine to hide his own fear of being wrong.
On July 28, 1794, Maximilien Robespierre was executed by the same guillotine he had used on thousands. No trial, no defense, just the swift justice he had championed. The crowd cheered. Robespierre believed he was creating a perfect society. But perfection demanded blood, and blood demanded more blood, until the only thing left was death itself. He called it virtue. He called it necessity. He called it the revolution. So I ask you, was he a revolutionary hero corrupted by power? Or was he always a small man who found a stage big enough for his ego? Can terror ever be virtuous? Or is violence simply violence, no matter what you call it? The guillotine doesn't care about your reasons. Neither does history. I had my own reason, but history is the ultimate judge. I'll see you in the next interview.